Okay, so we all hear about SEO, search engine optimization. It's supposed to be crucial for getting seen online, but with Google's algorithms getting smarter, like really smart, and AI changing how we find things, does the old playbook even work anymore? Or are we talking about a totally different game now for organic presence? Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that tries to unpack these big, complex topics and, well, make them make sense. Today, we are diving headfirst into the shifting world of SEO, and we've got a fantastic expert with us. Seriously, a major voice in the SEO world. Tons of experience, trained literally tens of thousands of people on platforms like HeyHow, SET, Knowledge Satellite. Just incredible background. So our mission today, let's try and cut through all the jargon, right?
Yeah.
Figure out what really good SEO looks like now, bust some myths maybe, and explain why it's still like absolutely fundamental if you want to get noticed online, especially now with AI everywhere. We're pulling insights straight from their latest deep dive on this. Okay, let's get into it.
So fundamentally, SEO, search engine optimization, it's about getting your site ranked high in search results organically. That means without paying for ads. The idea isn't just to show up, but to match what the user is actually looking for so well that Google basically says, yeah, this is the right stuff.
Right, that difference, organic versus paid ads, that's huge. I always thought or heard that the top like three results got almost all the clicks, something crazy like 95%. Is that still true?
Oh, yeah, that 95% figure. It's a bit of a relic now. It
Yeah.
used to be closer to that maybe. But today, while the first page is still absolutely vital, yeah.
Yeah.
The top three organic spots pull in closer to, say, 60% of clicks. So definitely still aggressive, and being on page one is non-negotiable if you want traffic. But maybe not quite the total dominance it once had, and that's completely separate from the paid ads, of course, which Google clearly labels, usually at the very top or bottom. We're focused on earning those unpaid organic positions.
Okay, 60%, still massive. So if we want those organic spots, it sounds like you really, really have to play by Google's rules. Do they actually publish these rules, or is it just guesswork?
Oh, absolutely they do. Google provides really extensive official documentation. They call them webmaster guidelines usually. They even have a whole YouTube channel dedicated to SEO best practices. They are the definitive source, no question. However, like you hinted, that documentation, it can be pretty dense, very technical, like reading an instruction manual,
Yeah.
It's often tough for beginners to digest it and figure out what to do. And that's exactly why experts, courses, guides, that's why we exist, to translate those guidelines into practical steps.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Making sense of the official manual. Okay, so beyond just knowing you need to follow the rules, what's a really basic, like foundational mistake beginners make? Something they just overlook?
The platform choice. That's a huge one right at the start.
Yeah.
People often assume, look, any online platform is basically the same for SEO in the long run. And that's just
Well,
that's a big misconception.
You mean like trying to build your whole online presence just on Instagram? Or maybe Threads now?
Exactly. Look, content on Threads might get indexed fast, maybe even pop up in search for a bit. But it doesn't usually have that stability, that predictability you need for long-term search visibility. Social media platforms are built for, quick engagement, sharing. They're not really designed to be the permanent, searchable archive for your core information. For that, you really need an official website or a blog, maybe on WordPress, Ghost, something like that. My advice, use social media for promotion, absolutely. Spread the word. But your own website, that needs to be the home base, the place people find via search.
Right, like digital real estate versus just flyers. Makes sense. So you've got your own platform set up. What's the next big hurdle for a beginner?
Keywords. Choosing the right keywords. It really is part art, part science. And the big trap here is just going by gut feeling. Picking words that sound good or positive or relevant. But if you don't have the data, it's like shooting in the dark.
Can you give an example, like a keyword that sounds great but is actually a dead end?
Sure. We looked at one, breakup self-improvement. Sounds really positive, right? Something people might search for when they're going through a tough time. But the data, zero, absolutely zero search volume for that exact phrase. Nobody types that in. But people do search for things like breakup weight loss or breakup outfits. The intent is completely different, much more specific, much more practical maybe. If you optimize for a term nobody searches for, well, you won't get any organic traffic. Doesn't matter how well you rank for it.
Wow, okay. That really shows the difference between what we think people search for and what they actually do. So how do we find out what they're actually typing in? What's the tool?
The essential starting point is the Google Ads Keyword Planner. It's free and it's invaluable. You put your ideas in and it basically tells you if anyone is searching for them. It filters out those garbage words with zero volume. Now, for keywords that do have volume, the free version gives you broad ranges like 0 to 100 searches a month or 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, and so on. And these ranges aren't just for writing content. They're super useful for business strategy too. Like you can gauge if there's actually a market demand for a niche product idea or even a whole startup concept just based on search volume.
That's really interesting. Using keywords for market research, I remember when I set up a tiny personal site ages ago. I spent ages thinking of a clever, memorable name. Does that still matter much, the actual name of your brand or product for search?
Oh, hugely, absolutely. A good name is easy to remember, easy to spell, easy to type. You want to avoid, really obscure words or complicated spellings. Honestly, how easily someone can search for your brand name can be a kind of litmus test for the name itself. We see great businesses sometimes struggle with word of mouth or direct searches just because their name is hard to recall or type correctly. So
Yeah.
yeah, a simple, memorable name gives you a built-in SEO advantage right from the start.
Okay, so optimizing for discovery and direct recall. Got it. That kind of leads into different types of keywords, doesn't it? Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, definitely. So first you have branded keywords. That's simple. People searching specifically for your company name, your product name. Then you have category or intent-based keywords. Things like red wine recommendations or gym near me or specifically Ginny District Gym. This is super competitive, obviously. Every brand wants to show up for these because they capture people actively looking for a solution or product type, not necessarily a specific brand they already know. And then there's the really interesting area of long tail keywords. These are much more specific phrases, often longer. Think like dentist specializing in root canals or maybe find cheap dental implants. Now, the strategy here is to create content that targets lots and lots of these different long tail terms. Each individual phrase might have low search volume, maybe only a few searches a month, but the people searching are incredibly specific in what they want, so they often convert much better. Attract enough of these very specific searches, and it adds up.
Ah, like that love cooking recipe site example you mentioned before. They must cover thousands of long tail searches just naturally with all their recipes, right? Like gluten-free chocolate chip cookie recipe or whatever.
Exactly. Their whole structure, just having tens of thousands of recipes, automatically captures this huge range of long-tail food and recipe queries.
Hmm.
And historically, Google even had that special recipe wall feature, like a knowledge panel. Sites like Love Cooking, because they had good structured data, often dominated those results for very specific recipe searches. It made them incredibly visible.
That's a brilliant example of how good SEO structure just compounds over time. Speaking of love cooking, you told a really striking story about their traffic source just flipping
Yeah.
because of an external platform change. What happened there?
Yeah, that was around 2015, 2016, I think. Facebook made a pretty major policy change affecting how content was distributed. Love Cooking had been getting something like 70% of their traffic from Facebook. Huge reliance. Almost overnight, that flipped. It dropped to less than 20% from Facebook. It forced them to really double down on SEO. It became absolutely critical for their survival, their primary traffic source. It's a really stark lesson, I think, about the danger of putting all your eggs in one basket, relying too heavily on a single platform you don't control. SEO became their lifeline.
Wow, 70% down to under 20%. That's terrifying. And a powerful case for SEO stability. You actually started your SEO career around 2018, right? Was Facebook's organic reach already kind of fading then? Was that pushing people towards SEO?
Yeah, definitely. By 2018, the decline in Facebook's organic reach was pretty well underway. It wasn't the free traffic fire hose it had been years before. I started out in a media agency working on SEO there. Eventually, I transitioned to doing my own thing, basically a one-person company. And it's quite different. Working with big agency clients often involves a lot of focus on, detailed reports, lots of meetings. Whereas working with Taiwanese SMEs, small and medium businesses, they're much more focused on tangible results. Like bottom line, survival often comes up. They need to see things working, driving growth quickly.
And I bet the reporting side of SEO can feel, well, maybe a bit boring sometimes, tracking small shifts, like going from rank 10 to rank 9.
Oh, absolutely. It can definitely seem mundane to an outsider or even to a client sometimes. Tracking those small incremental shifts like 10th to ninth, ninth to 8th might not feel dramatic. But it's a crucial part of the long game. It shows consistent progress, even if clients are initially just hoping for those big jumps to page one. It's analytical, necessary work.
Right, the grind behind the gains. So despite those maybe less glamorous bits and the platform shifts, like with Facebook, SEO is still seen as this fundamental marketing tool, this basic weapon. Why does it have such staying power?
I think largely because it's relatively cheap compared to paid ads especially, And as we discussed, it operates under relatively clear rules from Google. That predictability makes it one of the most reliable tools in the marketing arsenal, even if the rules evolve. But, and this is a big but, the challenge is often conversion. SEO brings you people who are actively searching high-intent users, yes, but they don't always convert on that first visit. Google actually talks about the chaos journey, users bouncing around, discovering, evaluating, comparing, often across multiple sessions and touch points. So SEO can't exist in a vacuum. It has to be part of a bigger marketing picture, working with other channels. You can't just rely on SEO alone to close the deal usually.
The chaos journey, I like that. It sounds very real. And yet, you mentioned many SMEs still struggle with even the basics of SEO, despite these advantages. Why is that, do you think? Why the struggle?
Well, I think many smaller businesses realistically only have the bandwidth or maybe the expertise to really master maybe 2 or 3 marketing tools well. Often, that ends up being something like Facebook ads and maybe short-form video now because they seem more direct or maybe immediately gratifying. So my advice often is try to really master one good, free, organic tool like SEO and combine that with one effective paid tool that works for your business. That's often a really pragmatic, sustainable approach for growth.
That sounds like solid practical advice. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about really, really competitive fields? You used dentistry as an example before. How on earth does a business rank well when it's just hyper competitive?
Yeah, industries like dentistry, law, finance, they're super competitive, absolutely. Getting top rankings there requires, frankly, a massive effort and a willingness to really outdo everyone else. Often, the winning strategy isn't trying to rank for everything. It's about finding a specific niche within that field and becoming utterly dominant there. So maybe a dental clinic doesn't try to rank for dentists. Maybe they focus intensely on, say, dental implants for seniors, or a specific cosmetic procedure like Invisalign alternatives or hyaluronic acid fillers. You carve out your territory and become the undisputed authority in that smaller pond, even if the ocean is huge and full of sharks.
So hyper-specialization is key in those crowded markets. Now, dealing with Google, it sounds like you're constantly dealing with algorithm updates too. How often do those happen? And how do you even react when things change overnight?
Oh, they're constant. Google's always tweaking things. But the big ones, the core algorithm updates, they happen roughly every couple of months now. They used to have fun names like Penguin or Panda, but now they're just named by month, like the March 2024 core update. And yeah, we've seen it happen. A site's traffic can literally get cut in half, sometimes more, overnight because of an update. Trying to explain that to a board or a client, it's incredibly challenging. It often feels, honestly, a bit like metaphysics, like trying to understand some unpredictable force of nature.
Wow, metaphysics, that sounds stressful. So if it's that unpredictable, what can you do? How do you prepare or react?
The best defense is a good offense, in a way. You focus relentlessly on the fundamentals, improving your website's overall health, technical stuff, speed, usability, and critically, the quality and usefulness of your actual content. Google gives very general guidelines after updates, things like focus on helpful content, but they don't give specifics precisely because they don't want people to game the system. So you control what you can control, making your site genuinely good for users. That tends to build resilience over time. And this really brings up the whole idea of SEO being like a strategic game with Google, almost game theory. You have the ethical white hat approaches and the unethical black hat ones.
Right. What are some classic black hat tactics that just totally don't work anymore? And maybe what are some shady things people still try?
Oh, the old school stuff, like hiding keywords by making them the same color as the background. Totally useless now. Google's way too smart for that. A more modern, but still very risky black hat tactic might be automatically scraping content from other popular sites, say like forums or news sites, maybe spinning it slightly, and then embedding hidden links back to your own site. Google's bots are incredibly sophisticated at detecting this kind of manipulation, this unnatural linking. Sites caught doing this can just plummet in rankings like a total snowslide.
Okay, so scraping and hidden links are out. What's the white hat way to get those valuable backlinks then?
The ethical way. It comes back to creating genuinely valuable stuff, content that people actually want to link to because it's useful or authoritative or original. Think really detailed guides, unique data, maybe compelling infographics, original research. For example, I wrote a really in-depth article once about how Chinese keyword segmentation works for search engines. It got a lot of natural backlinks because it was a specific, complex topic that other marketers found genuinely useful and wanted to reference. That's the kind of ecosystem Google wants to reward, creating value that earns links naturally.
Makes sense. Create real value, get real rewards.
Yeah.
Okay, now, the big one. The AI elephant in the digital room. How is AI changing search and SEO? What's Google saying? And what are you actually seeing happen?
Right. So Google's official line is basically, we don't care if content is written by a human or AI, as long as it's high quality, helpful, and original. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness, EEAT. And my experience mostly backs that up. Content created with AI assistance, if it's heavily edited, fact-checked, improved with unique insights, it can rank perfectly well. But, and this is crucial, just dumping raw, unedited output from something like ChatGPT directly onto a web page, that kind of lazy AI content generally performs very poorly. We've actually seen a huge snowslide, as you called it, of low-quality AI content farms getting penalized over the past year, year and a half. It really suggests Google's own AI, like Gemini, is getting pretty good at spotting and devaluing that mass-produced, low-effort stuff.
Okay, so Google's AI is fighting back against low-quality AI content. But I heard this weird story. A site apparently used AI to translate all its original content into another language, and their traffic just tanked. Why would that happen if the original content was good?
Yeah, that's a fascinating and slightly cautionary tale. It does raise questions about potential nuances or maybe still evolving aspects of Google's policies, especially around large-scale automated actions like site-wide translation. It could be how the translation was implemented, maybe technical issues, maybe triggered some kind of spam flag unintentionally. It's hard to say without specifics, but what it really underscores is the need for caution and, importantly, small-scale testing when implementing AI in SEO. You don't want to make a massive change based on an assumption only to find it backfires. Test, measure, then scale.
Right, test small, learn fast. Okay, what about the AI search engines themselves, like ChatGPT, Perplexity? Are they going to kill Google? Is SEO doomed?
Well, they're definitely growing fast. ChatGPT is apparently one of the top websites globally now in terms of traffic. That's huge. But Google still handles the vast majority of actual search queries worldwide. And right now, cost is a big factor. Running those complex AI models for billions of searches is expensive. But here's the really interesting twist, I think. This idea of SEO, search answer optimization, or whatever we end up calling it. Think about how those AI models like ChatGPT get their information. They often pull from and synthesize information found in the top ranking results on Google and Bing. So having a high organic ranking on traditional search engines is actually becoming crucial for visibility within these AI answers too. The AI eats source material, and it logically starts with what's already ranked highly. So no, I really don't think SEO is disappearing, not at all. We have more information than ever. We need ways to sort and rank it. The way people find information might change, sure. But the need for search and the fact that AI models depend on the existing web content that SEO helps structure and surface. That relationship means SEO remains a really reliable, highly certain way to get free, relevant traffic, at least for the short to medium term. It's foundational.
That's a really compelling point, SEO as the foundation for AI answers. Okay, let's shift gears one last time. Talk a bit about your own journey. You went from an agency to being a solo operator, a one-person company. What was the biggest adjustment there?
I'd say the biggest trade-off was definitely financial stability, that regular paycheck. But the upside was huge. Much more freedom with my time. And maybe more importantly, the ability to actually choose which clients and projects to take on. Focusing on work that feels genuinely interesting or fulfilling rather than just whatever comes through the agency door. You also appreciate the things a bigger company provides, though, like solid back-office support accounting, legal help, and access to those really expensive, powerful enterprise SEO software tools. Those are often just too costly for a solo person, so pros and cons.
Right, the freedom versus the infrastructure. You mentioned this idea of a dopamine career, chasing passions that give you that immediate hit of satisfaction. How does that relate to working in marketing or SEO?
Well, it's about finding that balance, isn't it? Passion is great, essential even, but not every passion automatically translates into a sustainable way to make a living. Like, maybe you love yoga, but becoming a yoga instructor might not pay the bills initially, or ever. Marketing and SEO can be incredibly rewarding, solving problems, seeing results, but you always have to consider the practical side. Can this actually support you? How do you build something lasting? Keep thinking about that book, The Master. Its core message is less about chasing fleeting dreams and more about focusing on what you can realistically build, what skills you can master, what sustainable value you can create. It's a very grounded approach.
That sounds like a really useful perspective. Speaking of books, any other recommendations for our listeners? Maybe a book or even a movie that gave you a fresh perspective recently?
Yeah, definitely stick with The Master if you're interested in that practical business philosophy. It really cuts against a lot of the usual startup hype.
Yeah.
And for a movie, I recently watched The Two Popes. Visually, it's beautiful, but it's also this fascinating drama about the transition between Pope Benedict and Pope Francis. Lots of subtle politics, disagreements, philosophical debates. Really well done. And there's a line in it that stuck with me. Doubt strengthens faith. The idea that really questioning things, grappling with uncertainty, actually leads to a deeper, more solid understanding or conviction in the end. I think that applies a lot to navigating complex, changing fields like SEO or even life in general.
Doubt strengthens faith. I like that. Very thought-provoking. Okay, last question, and maybe a fun one. You mentioned using ChatGPT Pro. Any, unusual or surprisingly helpful ways you use AI in your personal life?
Huh. Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. One is uh, recapping TV shows or even video game plots without spoilers. Like if I've taken a break from a series, say The Last of Us, I can ask ChatGPT to summarize the story so far, but explicitly tell it absolutely no spoilers for anything I haven't seen yet. It's surprisingly good at it. Much safer than Googling and accidentally seeing a major plot point. Another one actually is for really specific step-by-step technical instructions, like configuring something complex in software, maybe Xcode for app development. Instead of trying to find an up-to-date blog post with screenshots that might be old, I can ask the AI for precise turn-by-turn steps for my specific version. It's often much faster and more accurate.
Using AI to avoid spoilers and navigate software menus. Brilliant. Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground today. We've really dug into what SEO is now, why it's still so incredibly important, even with AI changing everything. We talked about avoiding those common beginner mistakes like platform choice and keyword guesswork. We looked at leveraging those super specific long tail keywords, dealing with competition, handling Google updates, and importantly, how AI is both a challenge and maybe an ally. So here's something to think about for you listening. We heard how AI models are constantly crawling the web, learning from the content that's already out there. So, doesn't that make proactively shaping your own digital footprint through strong foundational SEO even more critical now? Not just for people searching on Google, but potentially for influencing the very answers that AI itself provides in the future. Could SEO actually be becoming the sort of hidden foundational layer for the entire AI driven internet? Something to mull over.